story is truly frightening, especially for the people in the community who had no idea of the killer's release. And frankly, it's enraging for observers all over the country who are appalled at the brevity of time the convicted baby killer actually spent behind bars, to say nothing of the fact that they're now using that infamy to make money on OnlyFans. Now, we're talking about a convicted baby killer who was born a male named Jonathan Richardson, but later changed names to Autumn Cordeleone, changed genders too, apparently. You'll recall the killer was sentenced to 55 years behind bars for strangling an innocent 11-month-old little baby girl named Faith Lee, his own stepdaughter. But just when you think it couldn't get worse, Cordeleone doesn't spend 55 years behind bars, 25 years. And just seen recently wandering around Evansville, Indiana. Even prosecutors didn't know he had gotten out. Here's a quote. The Vandenberg County Prosecutor's Office was not notified that this defendant was back in the community. They were spotted by a citizen who recognized them from the original court case. But there's more. Now, apparently, this convict has an OnlyFans account, trying to make money off this infamy. This person's also apparently now a Muslim, loves sued a priest in prison for not giving him a hijab, or her, or them. Also sued the president for so-called transphobic hate speech, and sued the state of Indiana for not having sex change operations for free for inmates. No comment from the Indiana Department of Corrections about how and why this person is back out early, Laura.
Now, Kevin, I'm thinking, looking at this character, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
This individual needs to be committed to, I mean, Trump always says, bring back the insane asylums. I'm sorry, but poster child for, involuntary committal to an insane asylum. The fact that it's being really... No. Kevin, thank you very much for bringing us this story.
Ladies and gentlemen, Augusta Cordeleone, the transgender baby killer who was released 30 years early. Now to think about what it would be like to be one of the people that had to testify or participate in this maggot's trial. Making the assumption, because you were there for the sentencing, which was 55 years, that you wouldn't see Jonathan Richardson, that's who this actually is, for the rest of his life. The ACLU, such a wonderful organization, always looking out for the rights of people that murder babies. Successfully suing the Indiana Department of Corrections for denying Jonathan Richardson his, trans treatment that he totally deserved. I mean, after all, clearly a woman. Oh, what a great organization, the ACLU, always swinging for the fences for people convicted of killing babies, including Jonathan Richardson, who started receiving hormones, bras, makeup, panties, form-fitting clothing, all free from the Indiana Department of Corrections. Turns out Jonathan Richardson, refusing to call this maggot by any female name, is lawsuit happy. Well, first he sued the prison chaplain because he wouldn't give him a hijab. Got to tell you, baby killer's a Muslim now. Also sued President Trump for being transgender hate phobic. Then, of course, he won his transgender lawsuit, awarding him free titties and a trip to a women's facility. But that's not the worst part, is it? Because the Indiana Department of Corrections released him 30 years early. Indiana Department of Corrections also didn't notify anybody that this maggot was being released.
The Vandenberg County Prosecutor's Office was not notified that this defendant was back in the community. They were spotted by a citizen who recognized them from the original court case.
The state of Indiana has now had to pass a law requiring the DOC to notify prosecutors and victims when a monster's getting released. If you really want to throw up in your own mouth, this maggot-ass monster is making a living now from his notoriety with an OnlyFans account. Yeah, that's real. I've had to look at pictures of this it thing's face for about an hour today, and you know what? You couldn't pay me anything to look at anything connected to this face. So in 2026 in Indiana, if you kill babies, you get free major health care, released from prison early, and then you get paid from the notoriety. Hey, Indiana, you guys might consider putting your baby killers here instead of back in your communities. I mean, just a suggestion.
In what insane world do we let convicted murderers demand that taxpayers pay for their sex change operations in prison? Especially after he murdered a baby. A baby. This guy served less than half of his sentence, and he got out early because he sued the state, and a court overturned Indiana's ban on taxpayer-funded transitions for inmates. So listen to his list of surgical demands that he requested in prison after murdering a baby. He requested a fake vagina, breast implants, a uterus transplant, a tummy tuck, gluteal implants, hair removal, amongst many other things. Well, I was going to call him an animal, but that's actually an insult to animals. I think it's pretty obvious that this country is under serious demonic oppression, And we are basically living in the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. Actually, probably worse. So, wake up, people. This is happening even in conservative states.
A transgender baby killer was quietly freed 30 years early from an Indiana prison. On September 12th, 2001, 19-year-old Jonathan Richardson was babysitting his wife's 11-month-old daughter, Faith. Okay, so on that day, his friends came to visit him like normal, and he was acting kind of weird about it. He wasn't inviting his friends into the house or nothing like he normally did. So, on some articles, it says that he was blaring loud music, and then some don't say that. Okay. So when his friends left, Jonathan headed to a neighbor's house to ask them to call 911 because Faith was unresponsive. So when the mother, Jonathan, and Faith was at the hospital, she died. That's where she died, at the hospital. So they had an autopsy done on Faith, and the autopsy said that her cause of death was manual strangulation. Some accounts say asphyxiation, manual strangulation. Right? So in 2001, when he was arrested, he told a prison guard, "I murdered that little bitch." That is so messed up to say about a baby. This dude is messed up in the head. Y'all see. So in 2002, he was convicted of reckless homicide and got 55 years in prison. In 2020, Jonathan was diagnosed with gender dysphoria and changed his name to Autumn Cardillion. In 2024, when Autumn was behind bars, he became Muslim and filed a lawsuit against the prison chaplain, saying she was denied a hijab. Yep, you can't make this shit up. You can't. Muslims, uh, she, this person is not a real Muslim because Muslims don't believe in all that transgenderism stuff. It didn't say if he won this lawsuit against the prison chaplain or not. So I hope he didn't. That's crazy. In March 2025, he successfully sued the IDOC over its ban on gender affirming care. Yeah, he actually he won that one. So when it comes to the taxpayers, me and you, we're going to have to pay for that. Well, uh, wherever he's from, they're going to have to pay for that. I forgot where he's from. I didn't write it in my notes like I should have. Oh, he's from Indiana, Gainesville, Indiana. Okay. Yep. So Indiana's gonna have to pay for that. So in April 2025, Jonathan sued President Trump because he was saying like some messed up rhetoric about LGBTQ elemental P people. I don't know. I don't really listen to Donald Trump, so I don't know what he said about them people. But he said that it had inmates be violent towards her. She had sexual attacks against her in an all-male prison. Also, in 2025, Autumn filed another lawsuit against President Trump, a 3.5 million over transphobic hate speech. Okay, so Autumn was let out of prison on December 29th, 2025, and nobody knew about it. In March 2026, Jonathan was spotted by a private citizen who remembered him from the trial. And the private citizen told the prosecutors, and the prosecutors was upset. The state, the prison didn't tell them that they were releasing him after 23 years. Okay, 23 years, you guys, that this man was released. Okay, in 2025, Jonathan made a Facebook account. Not Jonathan, I'm sorry. Autumn made a Facebook account, Instagram account, and an OnlyFans account. On his social media accounts, he claims to be innocent. His time behind bars was hell. He said on a Facebook post, I made a mistake at 18 years old. I will never forgive myself for that. There is not an excuse for what happened. I would have made a different choice if I could change the past. I still say I am innocent. I didn't murder her. Yeah, this, whatever he said. Right? So, during this 2025 hearing, John, John, Jonathan Autumn made a list, a bunch of surgeries that he wanted the Indiana taxpayers to pay for. Okay? A vagina, breast implants, a brow lift, a uterus, a tummy tuck, gluteal implants, and hair removal. But the judge said, hell nah. Okay? So it was reduced to two things: penile inversion and orchiectomy. Orchiectomy. Okay. And then in a deposition, she wrote, I always knew I was a girl. I didn't know the term applied until I talked to Pearl, another transgender inmate. I didn't know transgender was the name for it. I was hearing at the time that it was transsexualism, and that didn't seem to fit me because it was apparently people that like to wear girl clothes to have sex. He goes on, Autumn goes on to say, while briefly married to the mother of the 11-month-old that he killed, he was working at an adult bookstore that sold pornographic videos. He was a janitor at that store. Autumn would have sex with male customers while pretending to be a girl. Autumn further testified that she had taken the name Autumn after a high school girlfriend, and that he used to steal his sister's clothes and mother's makeup as a child. When I put on girl clothes, I could for a second realize the girl inside. I felt I was only a woman when a man used me. It was the only acceptable time to be a woman, so it brought me a certain amount of satisfaction that I was pleasing a man like a woman would, and I got to express who I was. Y'all, this man, uh, you know what? I don't want to. Yeah, this man is crazy. But he knows everything to say in the courtroom to get what he wants. So on social media, he's in a transgender relationship with another transgender woman, basically a male to female. Okay. So his name is Corey Wallace. Okay, Corey Wallace. In 2015, Corey Wallace called 911 to report his house on fire. 4 minutes lapsed from the time he called until the firefighters removed his son, Jason? I don't know how to say not Jason, but Jensen. There we go, Jensen. From uh from the home. But the child was already dead. Jensen's Wallace autopsy said that the infant, he was 4 months, 4 months, 4 months old, you guys, 4 months. Okay? I forgot to put that in my notes. He was 4 months old. Damn. Autopsy said that the infant died before the fire started. He had several injuries that were afflicted by abuse, with 2 fractured ribs, one that was healing and one that was freshly broken. The fire was intentionally set. Corey admitted that he accidentally dropped Jensen on the hardwood floor and started a fire after he freaked out. Here's the thing. I dropped my kid on the floor before on accident. I never freaked out Well, I freaked out, but I never thought to set the house on fire because I dropped my baby on accident. It happens. You're you're not a bad parent, but on this, you're a horrible parent. All you had to do was pick your baby up, assess for signs. If you think your baby has a lot of trauma, take your baby to the hospital. What the fuck is wrong with these people? Okay, so CPS has been warned that Corey has been abusing children as far back as 2012. So when I read this, I came to the conclusion that maybe this wasn't accidental. Maybe he dropped him on purpose for him to be quiet. On April 18th, 2023, while incarcerated at the Pendleton Correctional Facility, Corey filed a petition for a change of sex marker on his birth certificate because he is living as a transgender female. July 2025, the court dismissed his petition on public policy. It was thrown out because he didn't have enough evidence for good faith standard required by Indiana law. Corey wants to file, no, he doesn't want to. He's intending to file lawsuits against the IDOC. In July 2023, he demanded a hefty payout of $500,000 in compensation for not having been granted state funded for cosmetic surgery. You can't make this up. On Instagram, Autumn, in a video, says he misses his trans significant other. I call her, aka Corey, my wife, but we're not legally married. Her name is Nikki. She's beautiful. We spend so much time in the cell holding each other. The ruling issued in September 2024 says that Autumn can have further surgeries and hormones be doled out at the taxpayer's expense. Ain't that a bitch? But hell, what do I know? I don't have to pay for it with my tax dollars.
Are you kidding me? So you're gonna tell me that this trans predator baby murderer gets released almost 30 years early? Didn't they just get put in? Make this make sense. Our justice system is so broken. If this is what we're doing, just letting people out of prison that belong in prison, because those kind of people don't belong in our society.
You guys, I want to know your thoughts on this because this low-key ticks me off. This right here is Autumn Corteleone. She's a transgender woman who was convicted in the early 2000s in connection with the death of her infant stepdaughter, and she was released from an Indiana prison 30 years before her full sentence was due to end. Back in 2002, Autumn was sentenced to 55 years in prison for strangling 11-month-old Faith Lee in Evansville, Indiana. At the time of her arrest, she was the alleged boyfriend of Faith's mother and went went by her birth name, Jonathan Richardson. According to reports, while incarcerated, Jonathan began attempting to change his appearance to present as Autumn. Autumn was ultimately granted parole in December of 2025 and returned to her hometown, but local prosecutors said that they were not notified by the Indiana Department of Corrections and only learned of her release after a citizen recognized her in public and alerted authorities. Officials said that the prosecutor's office received no advance warning of her return to the community, despite procedures intended to keep local agencies informed. Her earliest possible release date had reportedly been listed as late 2025, but they had no idea that she would actually be released. And neither did Faith's family. Now, reports also say that Autumn, who now identifies as Muslim too since being incarcerated, filed a lawsuit against a prison chaplain alleging that she was denied access to a hijab and other religious accommodations. She also pursued legal action recently related to prison policies involving gender-affirming medical care. So essentially, she's trying to get money off of this because she knows that she's probably not going to get a job, one, looking like this, and two, with her record of being a killer of a baby. After her release, Autumn reportedly launched an OF Blue page in order to, quote, make a living. In my opinion, this is weird and disturbing. I think she needs to be locked back up. This is not a situation where she crashed a car and a baby died as a result. This is a situation where she deliberately strangled a baby. What do you guys think of this? Do you think that this person should have been released?